You were never invisible, they just never looked with eyes that deserved to see you. Let that sink in for a second. Really let it hit your chest, because it wasn't your lack of beauty, worth, intelligence, or soul. It wasn't that you were too emotional, too available, too loving. It was them. Their blindness, their arrogance, their ego so bloated they couldn't see gold if it was laid at their feet. They didn't see you because they refused to, because if they did, they'd have to admit you were everything they didn't have the capacity to deserve. And when you finally stopped trying, when you finally pulled back that endless, loyal, self-sacrificing energy, they didn't applaud you, they didn't thank you, they pretended like you never mattered. But my friends, don't be fooled by the silence. Behind that performance is a storm. Behind that "I'm good" mask is someone drowning. Because they expected you to break, not become. If you've ever given your best and been thrown away like trash, if you've ever stayed when it hurt just to be treated like garbage, if they laughed at your loyalty and mocked your love, I want you to do two things right now. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, because this is your turning point. This is the script they never wanted you to hear. Hey folks, imagine this. You're standing in a room full of people and you scream, not a little whisper, a real, soul-tearing scream. And nobody looks up. Not one person turns their head. You scream again. Still nothing. So what do? You go quiet. You leave. You vanish without a sound. And suddenly the silence hits them like thunder. Now everyone's looking. Now they're whispering. Now they're searching. Not because they care, but because they noticed too late. That's exactly what happened with you. You gave. You showed up. You texted first. You made plans. You forgave. You believed in potential they didn't even believe in themselves. And for what? To be sidelined. To be made into an option. To be treated like a doormat while they played games with your loyalty? Let's destroy that lie right now. You were never too much. You were never clingy. You were never dramatic. You were consistent. You were committed. You were human. But they weren't ready for that. They weren't man or woman enough to hold someone real. So instead of rising to meet your level, they played small and made you feel like you were the problem. But let me tell you something they'll never admit. They miss you. Not just the messages or the attention. They miss the version of themselves they got to be when you were around. The one who felt seen, valued, wanted. You were their mirror. And now that mirror's gone, they're left with nothing but the cracks they tried to hide. Now, they pretend. They laugh louder, post more, act like they've moved on. But every fake smile is an attempt to cover the echo of your absence. Every new connection is a desperate attempt to recreate the feeling only you gave them. And they know, deep down, they fumbled something real. So stop crying over people who were too emotionally broke to afford your love. Stop waiting for a what if that will never come. Stop mourning someone who isn't even worthy of your silence. You are not trash. You are not backup. You are not disposable. You were the whole damn blessing. And now it's time they feel your loss. Take a deep breath and drop this in the comments. I was never the problem. Say it with your chest. Say it for the version of you that begged for love. Say it for the version of you they never truly saw. And press that like button if you're done being unseen. Stay with me, because what's coming next, it's going to flip the entire game. Number 1, the art of being overlooked. They didn't ignore you because you lacked value. They ignored you because they needed to believe you didn't have the power to walk away. Let that slap the lies right out of your mind. They didn't treat you like trash because you were trash. They didn't choose others because you weren't enough. No, my friend, They belittled you, ghosted you, overlooked you, because if they saw your worth, they'd have to face their own inadequacy, and their ego couldn't handle that truth. So instead, they kept you in reach, but out of respect. They kept you around, but beneath them. They fed their pride with your patience, your loyalty, their safety net, your love. A mirror they refused to look into. And when you gave them chance after chance, what did they do? They spat on it. They wiped their feet on your worth like you were a damn doormat. And now they act like you were too much? No, they were too small. So folks, imagine this. A diamond sitting in the corner of a dusty room. No spotlight, no display case. People walk past it like it's nothing. They step over it, maybe even kick it aside without a second glance. Why? Not because it's worthless, but because it's surrounded by trash. And to recognize its value, they'd have to stop and look deeper. They'd have to clean it off, lift it up, admit they'd been blind. That's you. You've been surrounded by people who saw your shine and chose to squint, because seeing you for who you truly are would have meant changing how they treat you. And let's be real, they didn't want to level up. They wanted to keep you below them, begging, proving, over-explaining, adjusting. Not because you were beneath them, but because they were never meant to stand beside you. And now the questions start creeping into your mind. Why wasn't I enough? Why did they choose her over me? Why do they treat strangers better than they ever treated me? What if I never find someone else? What if I was really the problem? Let me shut that noise down. Right. Now, you weren't too sensitive. You had empathy. You weren't clingy. You had consistency. You weren't crazy. You had boundaries they couldn't manipulate. But instead of valuing your depth, they went for shallow. Instead of rising to your frequency, they ran from your light. Because light exposes, and your presence made their shadows nervous. You have to understand, people who are emotionally bankrupt will always treat wealth like a threat. Your kindness made them uncomfortable. Your love made them feel exposed, and so they did what cowards do. They played blind, acted indifferent, and kept you on the shelf like you were a backup option, not the main story. And here's the darkest truth. They saw your worth. They just hoped you never would. Because the moment you do, you stop begging. You stop explaining. You stop shrinking just to fit inside their broken lens. And that is their worst nightmare. But I get it. Letting go of someone who never truly held you in the first place. That's a strange pain. You're grieving a fantasy, mourning a version of love that only existed in your mind. And that's where the fear comes in, doesn't it? What if I don't find better? What if they move on and never look back? What if they never realize what they lost? My friends, that fear isn't proof of love. It's proof of the lie you were taught, the lie that their validation proves your worth. But not anymore, because today we break that lie wide open. Let me tell you this. You are not optional. You are not background noise. You are not their emotional punching bag. You are not their late-night convenience. You are not to be accessed by people who only know how to consume, not cherish. Stop watering people who never planned to grow with you. Stop throwing pearls at those who only know how to trample. Stop asking for a seat at tables where your love gets dissected like it's a weakness. You gave the best of yourself to someone who didn't even give you the decency of honesty. And now? It's time to take it all back, piece by piece, energy by energy, bit by beautiful bit. And no, I won't lie to you, rising after being discarded isn't easy. It takes guts to walk away with your head high when your heart is in pieces. It takes fire to look in the mirror and say, I don't need their apology to heal. But it's possible, and it's worth it. Because when you finally reclaim your worth, something incredible happens. They feel it. Not in a loud scream, not in a final argument, not in a dramatic goodbye, but in your silence, in your absence, in the peace they thought they could destroy, but now have to watch you thrive in. So yes, they ignored you, but not because you were invisible, because they couldn't handle what they saw when they looked too close. You scared them, your love scared them, your strength scared them, so they played dumb, played distant, played cool. But behind that act, they're not winning. They're watching, silently, obsessively, regretfully, because now they know. You were never the doormat. You were the door to something they didn't have the courage to walk through. Right now, take that in. Feel it in your chest. Breathe. And type this in the comments. I was never the problem. Show them, show yourself, show the world. Your worth was never up for debate. Stay with me, because what's coming next? It's going to burn every lie they ever told you about your value, and ignite every truth they hoped you'd never remember. Number 2, the savage power of non-resistance. You don't win by chasing, you win by disappearing from where you were once expected. Let that hit like cold steel in the gut, because some of you are still out here thinking the answer is one more text, one more paragraph, one more tear-soaked explanation. You think maybe this time they'll understand. Maybe if you just say it better, they'll get it. But my friend, read this slowly and never forget it. They understood you the first time. They just didn't care. You're not confused. You're not crazy. You're not the problem. You're just addicted to trying to make sense of someone who never intended to respect your effort in the first place. And that's where we destroy the myth of reaction, the illusion of proving. You think your love will change them? Your silence will haunt them harder than your explanations ever could. That's not just poetic. That's psychology. So folks, imagine a tug of war. You're gripping the rope with bloody hands. You're pulling with everything you've got, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And on the other side, they're not even pulling back. They're just holding the rope, watching you exhaust yourself, watching you explain, beg, stay loyal, prove your heart, over and over. Now imagine what happens when you suddenly let go of the rope. They fall flat on their face, not because you fought harder, but because you stopped playing the game. That's the savage power of non-resistance. It's not rage, it's not revenge, it's not proving you're better. It's knowing you never had to in the first place. When you stop reacting, when you stop pushing, when you stop handing them your energy like it's a donation basket for their ego, you start starving the very thing they fed on. And they will starve. Not immediately, not loudly, but steadily. They'll scroll through their phone waiting for your name to pop up. They'll post just the right story to see if you'll bite. They'll throw out bait wrapped in subtle guilt, fake celebration, or even silence. And you don't move. That's power. But let's talk about why this is so hard for you. Why not reacting feels like dying inside. Why staying quiet feels like abandoning hope. Because somewhere along the way you were taught that silence meant weakness, that not responding meant defeat, that indifference meant you didn't care. But let me tell you something, Stoicism teaches with a blade-sharp edge. True strength isn't loud, it's not reactive, it doesn't flinch, it simply refuses to participate in chaos. You think by letting go, you're giving up. But you're not giving up. You're growing out of needing to be seen by someone who's already blind. You're not being cold, you're being clear. You're no longer auditioning for a role in their fantasy. Stop thinking your love can fix people who benefit from being broken. Stop trying to earn from someone emotionally bankrupt. They don't ignore your texts because they're busy. They ignore them because they know you'll send another one. They don't avoid closure because they're confused. They avoid it because keeping you confused gives them control. But when you stop chasing answers, when you go ghost where you once glowed, the game ends. And here's the cruel, beautiful truth. You don't deny them power. You let them keep it. And when they realize your attention isn't fueling their ego anymore, they panic, they unravel, they starve. Because people who build their worth on your reaction cannot survive your silence. They crave your triggers, they live for your slips. But when they send out bait and get nothing but your peace in return, they choke on the quiet. So don't fall for the trap, my friends. Don't respond to the "I miss you" masked as a meme. Don't fall for the carefully crafted accidental likes. Don't break your silence for someone who used your voice like background noise. Right now, I want you to sit with this. They didn't deserve your reaction. They barely deserved your presence. From now on, let your stillness be the storm. Let your indifference be the echo they can't silence. Let your disappearance be the proof they never expected to see. And say this with me, loud and clear. I don't react, I rise. Drop it in the comments. Write it for the version of you who once begged. Write it for the version of you who thought staying visible would win them back. Write it for the person you're becoming now. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world, and stay with me, because what's coming next, it'll make them regret ever thinking your silence meant surrender. Number 3, the mirror effect, what your detachment does to them. When you stop reflecting their importance back to them, they lose sight of themselves. That line right there, it's a dagger. Because this isn't just about heartbreak, this isn't about rejection, this is about the collapse of an illusion they built, with your love as the foundation. They didn't value you, they valued how they looked in your eyes. You were their mirror, my friend, a beautiful, shining, steady reflection that made them feel whole, admired, powerful. And now that mirror's gone, they're staring into emptiness. Now, imagine this, folks. A person stands in front of a mirror every single day. They admire themselves, fix their hair, smile, not because they love their reflection, but because the mirror flatters them. Now, one day, that mirror disappears. Gone. No warning, no replacement. Just a blank wall, no reflection, nothing to see. What do? First, they pretend it doesn't matter. Then they squint. Then they start to panic. Because they weren't looking at the mirror out of love. They were looking to feel like someone. And when that source of validation vanishes, they don't know who the hell they are anymore. That's what your detachment does. It shatters their self-image, not because you punished them, but because they depended on your presence to feel real. You hyped them up, you gave them depth, you reminded them they mattered. And in return, they gave you silence, games, crumbs, and confusion. They didn't love you. They loved how you loved them. And now that you've pulled that light back, they're stumbling in the dark. Here's the thing most people won't admit. Some people need to be admired to feel alive. Not loved, not known, admired. That was your role. Cheerleader, therapist, emotional safety net. And as long as you stayed in that role, they felt powerful. As long as your eyes sparkled when they walked in the room, they felt worthy. But the moment that sparkle turned inward, the moment you started seeing yourself, they started falling apart. And don't be fooled by the fake confidence. The louder the laugh, the more desperate the pain. They post, they party, they move on. But underneath that is a quiet panic. Why aren't they chasing me anymore? Why did the mirror stop reflecting? They check your profile not out of love, but to make sure they're still relevant. They replay conversations not to remember you, but to remember who they were around you, because you were their mirror, and your silence is now their empty reflection. They never prepared for this. They never thought you'd stop seeing them as the center of your world. They assumed your love would stay loyal, even to your own destruction. But you finally stepped back, and your absence. It's louder than every word you ever said. Let's kill the lie that says you need to make them feel what they made you feel. No, you don't need revenge. You don't need drama. You don't need one last argument or some poetic goodbye. You need distance. You need detachment. You need to stop being the mirror and start being the masterpiece that no longer waits to be viewed. Let them squirm. Let them wonder. Let them chase their reflection in everyone else and find nothing but broken glass. Because the thing about people like that, they don't miss you first. They miss the version of themselves that they could only be around you. But guess what? That version is gone. And so are you. Right now, take a second, close your eyes, and own this. You're no longer someone's emotional mirror. You are not responsible for reflecting their value. You are not responsible for fixing their cracks. You are not responsible for showing up so they feel seen. Let them sit with the emptiness. Let them feel the vacuum your love used to fill. Let your absence show them exactly what they lost, without a single word. And say it with me right now. I am not your mirror. Drop it in the comments. Write it for every time you gave and gave just to be discarded. Write it for the future version of you that will never again be someone's reflection, only your own light. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world. And stay locked in with me, because what's coming next? It's going to burn even deeper. They've felt your silence. Next, they're about to face your evolution. Number 4, they'll pretend not to care while secretly breaking. People don't break when you leave. They break when you stop giving them a reason to lie to themselves. And that is the punch they never saw coming. Because walking away isn't what ruins them. No, what ruins them is when you stop feeding the fantasy, when you stop being their excuse, when you finally let the silence speak louder than every second chance they mistook for weakness. That's when the mask slips. That's when the panic sets in. That's when the cracks start crawling across the version of themselves they pretended to be. But here's the wild part. They'll pretend not to care. In fact, they'll make it their mission to make it look like they've never been better. Watch them. Suddenly, they're healed. Suddenly, they're at the gym, laughing louder, traveling, hanging with people they never posted before. That's not healing. That's hiding. That's not confidence. That's a performance. So folks, imagine this. Someone walks out of a burning house, slams the door, and turns around smiling at the neighbors like nothing's wrong. But inside, that place is in flames. That's what they're doing right now. They're burning, silently, slowly. But because they've painted this image of not caring, now they're trapped in it. They have to pretend. They have to perform. Because admitting they miss you would mean admitting they lost something real. That's not strength. That's suffocation. They're not posting for fun. They're posting for you. They're not glowing. They're gasping. They're not over it. They're just obsessed with looking like they are. Watch closely. The signs are everywhere. Overposting, suddenly finding themselves, uploading every inch of their new life. Quotes about peace and self-love, right after they tore apart the person who gave them both. Unnecessary selfies, new flings broadcasted like billboards. They're not living, they're advertising their distraction. And the sickest part? They hope you'll see it. They want you to feel like they're fine. So you start questioning your worth all over again. It's psychological warfare disguised as Instagram filters and fake laughter. But here's what they didn't plan for. You not reacting. You not caring. You not watching. They expected you to chase, to crumble, to stalk their stories and spiral. But when you don't bite, when you disappear into your own glow-up without clapping back or seeking closure, that's when they spiral. Because the truth is, they were never fine without you. They just rehearsed it better. They practiced pretending while you were out there loving for real. And now that the attention is gone, now that your energy is no longer their drug, they're going through withdrawal. Don't let their silence fool you. Behind that calm is chaos. Behind that fake happiness is panic. Behind that "I'm good" is a person screaming in their own mind, wondering why you don't care anymore. But let me say something to the version of you that's doubting. This is not your guilt to carry. You didn't break them. Your absence did. And it wasn't out of cruelty, it was out of growth. You stopped showing up where you were taken for granted. You stopped bleeding to prove your love. You stopped being the reason they could lie to themselves about who they were. And now, without your reflection to prop them up, they're not so sure of themselves anymore. They're not so sure they're okay. They're not so sure they ever meant as much to you as they thought you did to them. And that doubt? That's what breaks them. Not your anger, not your words, not even your goodbye, but your silence, your peace, your refusal to entertain the same tired game. They'll pretend not to care while watching everything you do. They'll act cool while dying for a reaction. They'll say, "It's nothing," while your name is the thought they can't escape at 2 a.m. That's what they get for building their ego on your effort. Right now, I want you to say this out loud. I am not fooled by noise. Drop it in the comments. Say it for every time you thought their silence meant strength. Say it for every time you doubted your impact. Say it for the version of you that deserves peace more than performance. Show them, show yourself, show the world, and stay with me, because next up, we're going even deeper into the one thing they'll never recover from, your evolution. Number 5, evolution is the most savage revenge. The best way to haunt someone is to become someone they can't reach, even in memory. Let that one land deep. Let it scrape the walls of every memory where you begged to be seen, where you fought to be enough, where you bent until your soul cracked just to keep a connection alive that only you were trying to protect. You thought the answer was proving something to them, but it never was. The answer was evolution. You don't need revenge, my friend. You need rebirth. So folks, imagine this. A snake sheds its skin in silence. No announcement, no warning, just slow, deliberate transformation. And when it's done, the old skin lies behind. Proof that it's outgrown what once protected it. That's what evolution looks like. Quiet, powerful, permanent. They expected your silence to be a phase. They thought your healing would be for show. They assumed you were just waiting, hoping, watching from the sidelines, still orbiting around them like you once did. But you didn't just leave the room. You left the building. And then you rebuilt yourself in a place they will never be invited to again. You stopped posting for attention. You started building for peace. You changed your routines. You leveled up your mind. You turned your pain into purpose. Not to make them jealous, not to get their attention, but because you finally realized they were never the reward. You were. That version of you. The one who over-explained, who obsessed over their texts, who blamed yourself for the bare minimum, who thought their coldness meant you needed to try harder. That version. Dead. Gone. buried in the past with the old stories, the old self-doubt, the old desperation for closure that was never coming. And now you're unrecognizable, not because you're faking, but because you're finally becoming. This isn't about jumping into someone new's arms to get over them. This is about becoming someone who no longer needs to be held by people who only showed up empty. You don't want the version of them that breadcrumbed you. You don't want the version of you that accepted it. You're done being their therapist. You're done being their maybe. You're done being the emotional punching bag they use to feel powerful. And that evolution, that's what haunts them. Because here's the part no one talks about. They weren't just feeding off your love. They were feeding off your need for them. Your uncertainty gave them control. Your presence gave them power. But now that you don't care, now that you've disappeared into your growth like a star exploding into something new, they're lost. They don't know how to reach you. They don't know who to reach because the version they hurt doesn't live here anymore. And that's what eats them alive. They scroll your profile, hoping to see sadness. They ask around, hoping to hear you're still stuck. But instead, you're glowing, quietly, unapologetically. Your energy no longer asks to be validated. It commands respect. You're not spiteful. You're not bitter. You're just done. And that's the kind of revenge they'll never recover from, because they can't fix it. They can't reach you. They can't even find the words to explain what they lost, because the new you doesn't speak their language anymore. So here's what you do. You keep evolving. You keep rising. You keep becoming the version of yourself you once thought you had to wait for someone else to unlock. And right now, I want you to say it with me. I've outgrown who needed them. Drop it in the comments. Say it for every version of you that felt stuck. Say it for the one who didn't know leaving them meant finding yourself. Say it for the version they will never know again. Show them, show yourself, show the world, and stay close. Because what's next? We're going to tear down their comeback plan before they even press send. They're already plotting, but you're already gone. Number 6. They always come back, but you won't be there. They'll return, not out of love, but out of fear that you no longer need theirs. You can feel it coming, can't you? That awkward text, that late night just checking in, that fake concern dressed in nostalgia. It's not affection, it's a trap. They're not reaching out because they miss you. They're reaching out because they miss the control. They miss the version of you who waited, replied, forgave, begged, stayed. But this time, that version doesn't exist anymore. So folks, imagine this. Someone leaves their phone charger behind at your place. They don't check in, they don't call, they don't care. Days pass, weeks go by, and then, out of nowhere, they hit you with a, "Hey, just thinking about you." No. They remembered their charger. They remembered the supply. And you. You were the power source. That's exactly what these people do. They come back, not because they've changed, but because you have. Because your silence became too loud to ignore, because your peace became too intimidating to reach, and because they thought your love was unconditional until you finally built some damn conditions. They don't miss you. They miss the benefits of being near you, the comfort, the ego boost, the security blanket. You were their soft place to land after they treated you like you were disposable. You were the fuel for their fire while they left you in the cold. But this time, my friend, you're not for sale. They thought you were a fallback. They thought you were an emotional vending machine. Push the right buttons, and out comes the validation. But now that you've gone silent, now that you're not reacting, they're spiraling. And here's what makes it worse for them. You didn't slam the door. You didn't rage. You didn't post a breakup playlist or start a pity party online. You disappeared into peace. You left the door open and they still couldn't walk through it. Now they're thinking, did they ever love me? Did someone else take my place? Did I lose something I'll never get back? Yes, you did. Because the moment you stopped chasing was the moment they realized you were never the one who was replaceable. They thought they'd return to the same warm space, the same open arms, the same love on tap they took for granted. But now they're knocking on a door that leads to no one. And don't fall for it, my friend. Don't fall for the carefully worded message, the fake apology, the breadcrumb compliments. That's not accountability. That's desperation disguised as charm. That's ego dressed up as interest. They don't want to fix what they broke. They want to see if you're still broken. But guess what? You're not. You healed in the dark. You rebuilt from rock bottom. You rose from the ashes they left behind. And now, you are no longer a return address for people who walked out like they'd never look back. Let them come back. Let them stare at the locked door. Let them reread their unsent text. You don't owe them a second chance just because they finally realize you were the one. The biggest mistake they made wasn't leaving. It was assuming you'd still be there when they came crawling back. And maybe they will crawl back, but they won't find you waiting. They'll find a version of you that doesn't shrink to fit inside their guilt. They'll find someone who doesn't trade peace for attention anymore. You don't need to prove anything. Your silence did. You don't need to respond. Your evolution already did. Right now, say this out loud. I'm not your second chance. Drop it in the comments. Write it for the version of you who waited by the phone. Write it for the one who forgave too many times. Write it for the now you, the healed, whole, untouchable version. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world. And stick with me, because next we're going inside their mind and showing you exactly how your silence is destroying them from within. Number 7. What Stoicism taught me about attraction. They chase peace after they destroy it. They crave clarity after they sabotage it. That's human nature. And that's why they always come back, not because they've changed, but because your silence exposed the war inside them. They rejected your love, mocked your consistency, sabotaged the very thing they now claim to miss. But let's get something straight. You are not your rejection. Stoicism taught me this. When the world goes silent, you don't beg for the noise to come back. You become still. You don't chase what left. You release it. Not because it's easy, not because it doesn't hurt, but because you refuse to be held hostage by someone else's emotional confusion. You don't need closure from someone who couldn't even open up. You don't need validation from someone who couldn't even choose themselves. You don't need to be enough for someone who was never ready to rise. What you need is discipline, stillness, strength, not to win them back, but to stay true to yourself when every part of you wants to break. They lost access the moment they mistook your love for weakness, and now they want the peace they once trampled. Let them crave it in silence. Let them sit in their chaos while you sit in your clarity. Say this out loud and drop it in the comments. I choose peace over performance. Say it for your heart. Say it for your future. Say it for every part of you that refused to shrink just to be chosen. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world. And stay close, because we're about to crack open the mental breakdown your absence has triggered inside them. Number 8. Let them regret you in private. Make them mourn you in silence, not because you're playing games, because you're done playing roles. This isn't revenge. This isn't petty. This is power. The kind of power that doesn't yell, doesn't post quotes, doesn't throw subliminals. The kind of power that walks away and never looks back. You're not trying to make them cry. You're just done bleeding to be seen. You're not hoping they'll wake up. You've already left the room and taken your light with you. Because here's the truth. You screamed your worth to someone who was emotionally deaf. You cried for someone who couldn't feel. You gave CPR to a connection that was already 6 feet under. And now you're silent. Not because you don't feel, but because you finally understand that the loudest form of self-respect is peace. Let them perform. Let them pretend. Let them lie to themselves in group chats and social media captions. Let them spin the story however they want, because their real punishment is having to live in the absence of you. You don't need to show them what they lost. Life will. Silence will. The echo of your growth will remind them every day of the version of you they'll never touch again. This is your era of peace, privacy, power. Say it with your chest and drop it in the comments. My silence says it all. Say it for your healing. Say it for your evolution. Say it for the version of you that they thought would always be waiting. In conclusion, your silence isn't weakness, it's transformation. You didn't walk away to hurt them. You walked away to heal you. And now they're sitting in the emptiness they created, haunted by the version of you they'll never access again. Let them regret. Let them wonder. You're just getting started. If this message hit your soul, smash that like button, subscribe for more content that speaks your truth, and share this with someone who needs to hear it today. Drop it in the comments. I'm not coming back. Because you're not just gone, you're evolved.